It's 1:45 a.m. You have work in 6 hours. Your eyes burn, your neck aches, and you're 3 swipes deep into a thread about a disaster half a world away. You can't influence it, fix it, or even fully verify it. You tell yourself, just one more minute, but your thumb keeps moving. If you think that's a character flaw, or proof you have no willpower, here's some news that might help you sleep tonight. It's usually not willpower. In many cases, your brain is doing what it was built to do. But here's the part most people miss. The modern internet learned how to press your oldest buttons. You're not alone. Research suggests many adults doomscroll, even when it raises anxiety. And it's easy to blame yourself, because it feels personal. But you're up against systems designed to capture attention and keep it. Your biology is old. The feed is new. And the feed is optimized. But there's a second reason this shows up at night. Night is often the only time your schedule feels like it belongs to you. No boss, no errands, no one more thing. So your brain reaches for something that feels like control. Information. The problem is the easiest information to find is the stuff that scares you. So why do we choose bad news over a funny sitcom? It sounds irrational. And it gets stranger because your brain may interpret scary as important, even when it's useless right now. Let's break this down with 3 psychological drivers. None of them mean you're broken. They're extremely human. Driver 1 is negativity bias. Negativity bias is the tendency to prioritize potential threats over neutral or positive signals. In an evolutionary sense, the human who remembered where the tiger lived survived longer than the one who only remembered the flowers. Your brain didn't evolve to keep you happy. It evolved to keep you alive. So when you see a threat headline, your attention locks in. Research suggests threat cues can increase vigilance. In plain language, danger feels like a task. Your mind goes, track this, understand this, stay ready. Not because you love misery, because a part of you believes information equals safety. Here's the part most people miss. In the modern world, the predator is often a digital ghost. You can gather facts and still never feel safe because the news cycle doesn't end. Your brain wants closure. The feed offers infinity. But there's a second reason negativity bias becomes a trap at night. When you're tired, your brain relies on fast rules like, if it feels urgent, it is urgent. That's not a moral failure, that's fatigue. Driver 2 is intermittent reinforcement, also called the slot machine effect. Intermittent reinforcement is when a behavior gets rewarded only sometimes, and that randomness makes it sticky. The addictive part is, maybe this time. Your feed works the same way. You scroll through a lot of noise, and then you hit a reward. Validation. A clever comment. A satisfying explanation. A moment of connection. That tiny dopamine-driven hit teaches your brain, keep digging. The next good post might be one flick away, and it gets stranger. The reward doesn't have to be positive. Outrage can be rewarding too. So can shock. So can the feeling of being in the know. Your brain often just learns what keeps you engaged. Here's the part most people miss. Doomscrolling can be less about loving news and more about chasing relief. The relief might come from certainty, even dark certainty. It might come from distraction. It might come from feeling like you're not alone. Driver 3 is cognitive avoidance. Cognitive avoidance is when your mind uses an external focus to avoid an internal feeling. When the lights go out, quiet makes room for thoughts you've been postponing. Pressure, regret, loneliness, worry about money, worry about time. So your brain finds noise that feels justified. I'm not distracting myself, you tell yourself. I'm staying informed. In many cases, that's anxiety wearing a badge. Let me make this real with a quick story. Meet Sarah. Sarah is a 29-year-old marketing manager. Her day is a sprint of messages, deadlines, and meetings that should have been emails. At 11:15 p.m., she finally gets into bed. The room is dark. The apartment is quiet. Then her brain starts whispering, "Are you doing enough? What if you never reach your goals?" Sarah doesn't open a news app because she loves chaos. She opens it because it's loud enough to drown out her own thoughts. One alarming headline spikes her tension, so she scrolls for updates to calm down. 30 minutes later, she's more activated, not less. She finds one reassuring post. Relief hits for 5 seconds. Then a new scary post resets the cycle. That's not stupidity. That's avoidance plus intermittent reinforcement working together. Now, I want to be careful. I'm not diagnosing anyone. Doomscrolling can mean different things for different people. What matters is the pattern and the cost. So how do you tell if your scrolling is research or a trap? Here's a quick self-check. 4 questions. 1. The body check. While you scroll, is your jaw clenched, your breathing shallow, or your shoulders tense? 2. The one more test. Have you said 5 more minutes and then lost 40 minutes without learning anything useful? 3. The mood shift. Do you feel calmer after scrolling or more anxious and stuck? 4. The control question. Are you reading because you want to know or because you fear being alone with your thoughts? Here's the part most people miss. Your answers aren't proof you're weak. They're clues about what need you're trying to meet. Now let's talk balance, because there is a reason this habit exists. The strength behind doomscrolling is that you care. Wanting to be aware can signal empathy and responsibility. You don't want to be naive. You don't want to look away. That's a real value. The blind spot is confusing consumption with processing. Your brain has a limited capacity for deep caring. If you spend it all on a screen at 2 a.m., you may have less left for your real life at 2 p.m. And there's a second blind spot. The feed can distort your sense of reality. It shows the sharpest edges, not the full picture. So how do we break the loop without pretending the internet will suddenly become wholesome? Let's do 3 practical fixes. Simple, non-therapy, realistic. Fix 1. Create a news window. Choose one daily window for news, not in bed. 10 to 20 minutes is usually enough to stay informed. Set a timer. When it ends, stop on purpose, even if the story is unfinished. Here's the part most people miss. You are training your brain to tolerate open loops. You're teaching it, unfinished does not mean unsafe. Fix 2. Swap the reward. Don't fight the need for relief. Redirect it. Doomscrolling offers a reward, usually a feeling shift. Replace that feeling shift with something that calms you faster and costs you less. A comedy clip, a warm shower, a 5-minute journal dump, 1 chapter of fiction, a short stretch. But there's a second reason swapping works. It keeps the relief goal intact while changing the path. Fix 3. Make the phone boring at night. Add friction where you lose control. Log out of the apps you doomscroll on. Move them off your home screen. Put your screen on grayscale after 10 p.m. Charge your phone across the room. And it gets stranger. Friction feels annoying, but it's protective. It gives your tired brain a moment to choose again instead of sliding into autopilot. If you want one bonus move, try the 1-for-1 rule. For every doom-heavy account you follow one construction account. Science breakthroughs, community wins, people building useful things. This doesn't erase reality. It balances your input so your brain remembers the world is also being repaired. So the next time you're staring at a screen in the dark, remember, it's often not that you're weak. It's that you're human. You're curious. And in many cases, you're trying to feel safe, feel prepared, or feel less alone. Be kind to yourself. Put the phone down. Take 1 slow breath. Let the world take care of itself for the next 8 hours. It will still be here in the morning. And if this helped, you're going to love our next deep dive. Why your brain craves bad news. Because once you stop scrolling, The next question becomes obvious. Why does negativity feel so magnetic in the first place?